CNN's medical expert says the government should restrict freedom only to those who are vaccinated and penalize those who aren't. The CDC says people who've gotten the jab can travel, but that they still shouldn't. The Biden administration is telling Americans to wear face masks and socially distance, even if they've been fully immunized, while still cramming thousands of untested illegal aliens into stadiums that have been closed to the public, where they're educated with taxpayer-funded teachers whose public school classrooms are still empty of American children. And we're supposed to all go along with this like this still has anything at all to do with a virus. It doesn't. It's about power, freedom, and a government that thinks they are the ones who give you your rights and that they can take them away. That, my friends, is fascism. And we are playing a dangerous game with it. CNN medical analyst Dr. Leana Wen, this is the former president of Planned Parenthood, so you can kind of see where this is headed, opened her pie hole on Chris Cuomo's show on CNN last week and went on a fun little tirade about how the Biden administration should restrict people's ability to go about life as normal and give it only to those who are vaccinated, because otherwise people will simply enjoy their freedoms anyway. And can't have that.
I think that there are many more people, millions of people, who, for whatever reason, have concerns about the vaccine, who just don't know what's in it for them. And we need to make it clear to them that the vaccine is the ticket back to pre-pandemic life. And we have a very narrow window to tie reopening policy to vaccination status. Because otherwise, if everything is reopened, then what's the carrot going to be? How are we going to incentivize people to actually get the vaccine? So that's why I think the CDC and the Biden administration needs to come out a lot bolder and say, if you're vaccinated, you can do all these things. Here are all these freedoms that you have. Because otherwise, people are going to go out and enjoy these freedoms anyway.
Yeah, she keeps talking like that, and I'm going to tell her exactly where she can shove her stupid little carrot. Because whether this shrew wants to acknowledge it or not, our rights don't come from the government. This is not about carrots and sticks. We're not cattle. Our freedom isn't a carrot to be dangled in front of us to get us to do whatever our overlords want. But as jacked up as this lady's opinion is, it's not surprising coming from a woman who also thinks an unborn baby can be deprived of their basic right to life because they're an inconvenience to someone more powerful than them. See, this is that ideology expanded out to all of humanity. It's why this line of thinking is so dangerous, not only to the unborn, but to anyone who gives a rip about freedom at all, because this is where that sort of callousness toward life and rights and basic human dignity leads you. If the government decides a living child can be denied their inherent God-given right to exist simply because someone stronger than them decides so, it's not then a stretch for them to decide that you can be deprived of your inherent God-given rights when you become an inconvenience to someone else. Or when someone stronger or more powerful than you, like the government or some health expert, decides you need to be reined in to protect someone else. Because see, we aren't debating COVID anymore. We are so far from that. That whole discussion is in the rearview mirror. This has nothing at all to do with whether this virus is as deadly as the CDC has claimed, or whether the death toll is as high, or whether masks work or don't work, or super spreader events are even a thing. All of those are old arguments, and we have had them over and over. More than 165 million Americans have been given at least one dose of a vaccine that the experts claim is highly effective at inoculating against this thing. Our case numbers have dropped rapidly, even in states like Texas and Florida that have nixed their mask mandates and their social distancing rules. The gig is up. The fear-mongering has lost its edge, and yet after more than a year of this nonsense, we're still being told to put on our face diapers and not visit our grandma, even if you're vaccinated. Why? Well, you know, they can't really say. For example, just last week, the CDC, all hail, came out and said people who are vaccinated now have the freedom to travel unrestricted, as if our freedom to go see our own family members comes from a group of lab coats who stare at petri dishes all day.
Fully vaccinated people can resume travel at low risk to themselves. For domestic travel, fully vaccinated people do not need to get a COVID-19 test before or after travel and do not need to self-quarantine after travel.
Screw right the heck off with that. But in the same exact press conference, that same CDC that just said it was safe for vaccinated people to fly all over creation said it's still not recommended that they travel for unnecessary reasons. So it's safe, but they still shouldn't do it.
And while we believe that fully vaccinated people can travel at low risk to themselves, CDC is not recommending travel at this time due to the rising number of cases.
Well, why wouldn't you be able to do it if you're safe? If you're vaccinated and you can't get the virus or spread the virus and it's safe to move about the cabin, why are you still not recommending it? And for that matter, who says you need to get a needle jabbed into your arm and flash a vaccine passport to travel in the airports and on the roads that we paid for? And while we're on the subject, where is it written that the government can force you to get an injection you don't want as your ticket to go about your life? Because again, we are not talking about a virus anymore, in case that is not painfully obvious at this point. And we haven't been for a long time. The guidance and the rules and all of the contradicting do's and don'ts have not followed the data, which keeps changing depending on who's rolling it out and what they want us to do with it. No masks, then yes masks, then this level of herd immunity, then that one. You have to socially distance at church, but not at Walmart. Your kids can't go to school, but we can pack illegal aliens into a stadium. None of this has ever made any logical sense at all. So don't let the powers that be convince you that we're still talking about a virus. We're not. That is a smokescreen meant to guilt you. At this point, you've been doing this long enough to know what you're comfortable with and what you aren't. Now we're talking about power, about control, about the basic principle of who gives us our rights and our freedoms and who doesn't. See, we have a government filled with politicians and experts and talking heads who've adopted the belief that our rights are derived from them, rather than the government being derived from the consent of the governed. Over this past year, they have gotten a nice, good taste of near complete control, and they don't plan on giving it back. And when a government decides that they are the ones who give us our rights and not God Almighty, that is fascism. That's a government that can give and take whatever they want, whenever they want, and you are completely beholden to its whims. If they can choose to strip you of your rights over a virus because it's for public safety, then they can do it with anything, and we've already started seeing it. With guns, climate change, education, they can do it with food they think you shouldn't eat, medical care they think you should or shouldn't get, places they say you shouldn't go, the information they think your kids shouldn't have. It goes on and on and on because now everything is based on their discretion, not your free will. This didn't start with COVID. COVID just exposed it even more, like a cancer. This is why pro-lifers have been screaming at the top of our lungs for years in defense of the right to life, not only to save innocent humans, but because we understand that without a basic respect for life, none of our other rights matter, and they all become subjective. A government that believes that it can deprive a child of their very right to life is one that has no problem depriving you of your right to everything else. And that is exactly what they're trying to do. And that's your Reality Check America. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble pages, like us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay sane out there.